Hello and welcome to the show. On the program tonight, we've all seen the devastating pictures from Slave Lake, and one local group has taken it upon themselves to provide relief for some of the displaced families. But first, the Canadian Wheat Board has been a fixture for our farmers for decades, but the Conservative government has it on the chopping block. What they do and how they work for our farmers is right now on Around the Region. Later in the show, our region put on another successful event to help end cancer. Survivors and supporters alike walked through the night after raising hundreds of thousands of dollars for cancer research. That story is coming up. Welcome to the show. Here with me in studio now is Klimek. She's a farm business representative from the Canadian Wheat Board. Thank you so much for coming in today, Karen.
You're welcome.
So let's talk a little bit about this new crop season here. We've had a late start in seeding. What does that mean for farmers going forward?
We're not as late as some people think. Right now we're about 3 to 5% seeded. Normally at this time of year we would be about 18%. So we're not too far behind. If we get really good weather, things will progress really quickly. So it's not really that big of a deal yet. If we get some delays because of weather, of course that'll delay harvest on in August, September, which could lead to the fall rains, snow, all that kind of stuff, which would then downgrade the crop in the end. So those would be the consequences of getting a late start.
Now, I guess, there's already some flooding in southern Manitoba, already some flooding in parts of Saskatchewan, I guess. Did you guys see that being a problem going into this crop season?
The flooding, of course, in those areas is quite bad, so there's going to be a lot of acres unseeded probably there. The Wheat Board's estimate is somewhere between 3 to 5 million acres, so that's about 5 to 10% of the total seeded acres in Western Canada. So it is a significant amount. However, last year we were at about 18% unseeded acres because of flooding and that sort of stuff widespread across Saskatchewan and Manitoba. So it's not as bad this year. However, for those that are affected, it's really unfortunate.
I guess, is there anything that farmers can do to farm more smart this season in accordance to floods?
Not really. I think the farmers know the lay of their land, so they're able to plan for flooding and runoff and that sort of thing. So they're really in tune with what their land can handle and where they should be seeding and that kind of stuff, planning for it.
Excellent. And I guess let's talk prices a little bit going into the season. What's the price outcome look like?
The prices right now are fairly good. They're not the highs that we have seen, but they're definitely not the lows that we have seen either. Going into the next crop year, they're fairly decent as well. They're not as high as they are currently, but that can always change depending on supply and demand in the world.
Excellent. And I guess let's talk a little bit about Weather Farm. This is a Canadian Wheat Board initiative. How can farmers use Weather Farm and where can they find it?
Weather Farm is very interesting. There's a lot of different tools that are contained within the Weather Farm application. So it's a website, www.weatherfarm.ca. And you can log in for free. You can log in as a guest, or you can sign up, register and sign up and get the information. It connects you to the Canadian Wheat Board's WeatherBug stations, which is a network of about 800 weather stations across the prairies that farmers have set up on their farms, and it measures instantaneous weather, so your temperatures, your wind speeds, your everything that a weather station should measure, precipitation, that sort of stuff. And it also produces forecasts, which are a little bit different than Environment Canada because their weather stations are so spread out. So you can, a lot of farmers use it, find it very handy during spraying season, so they can see where the winds are coming from and have those predictors so they can know when to seed or to spray and that kind of stuff. So it's very localized, it's very good information, really up to date. It updates itself every 1 to 3 seconds, whereas Environment Canada is an hourly update. And any farmer can get weather from any of the stations across the prairies, or they can actually buy a station and set it up on their farm to plug into the system as well. Oh wow, so would you say it's more accurate than Environment Canada for sure? Should we use it on the studio? Should we use it in our studio? I mean, I guess accuracy could be when we're talking weather, accuracy is something that's really subjective, but it's more localized. So if you're farming, 40 miles from Lloydminster, the weather station in Lloydminster isn't going to do you a whole lot of good as far as reporting, precipitation and wind and that kind of stuff. So,
okay, we're going to talk more about the Canadian Wheat Board just after this break.